Okay, let's get right into the content. What I want to prove is this point is that the delusion that we see is global. It's not just America, it's the East, it's the West, it's everywhere. And social media, I mean, women's empowerment in the West, especially, but there's been a global outreach, and social media has connected the world more than ever before. So the delusion is not just here in the West, it's overseas as well. So let's of course we got to go back to our good old China because America is currently in a trade war with China at this point right now. So why not start with the Chinese ladies who took a bite from feminism from the West, and we have these delusional mindsets and mentality. Let's roll that tape.
2 days ago, I attended a high school reunion and met a boy who had once pursued me. I remember that he used to be short, had dark skin, and dressed a bit unfashionably. In short, the kind of guy who didn't stand out at all. At the time, I didn't have much interest in him. In fact, I could say I wasn't interested in him at all. However, this time when we met again, his transformation shocked me. He is now an executive at a major company, and his entire demeanor is completely different from back then. He exudes confidence and maturity, speaks gracefully, and clearly leads a very successful and happy life. His current lifestyle is full of the aura of success and happiness. What struck me most is that the man I looked down on in my early 20s has turned out to be so outstanding at the age of 38, perfectly matching my current criteria for a partner. Not only has he achieved career success, but his personality and appearance have also undergone a complete makeover, aligning exactly with what I now look for. Unfortunately, he is already married with children, and it is clear that we are not meant to be. This stark contrast made me sigh with emotion. How unpredictable the passage of time can be.
我今年呀40出头，至今单身。
I am 40 years old.
So basically, she wanted the unfinished product when that young man was young. Now he's a CEO. Now he's successful. Now he's with somebody else. Again, waiting at the finish line. And obviously, that society is very status driven, very much transactional in nature. But let's continue on. The delusion continues. And obviously, again, China had its one child policy for so many years, preferences for boys. But even with the, like I say, the indoctrination of a lot of Western ideologies, including for the women, especially, and that's been promoted through corporate sponsorship in China, basically to push goods, sell goods in China. They had abandoned so much of their traditional values that has kept family, tradition, and culture alive for so long and took on a more modern mindset. And this is the outcome. And here you have this lady right here, a 40-year-old woman. She's stuck on the delusion too. And obviously that's reinforced by so much what's going on with the internet and social media. But let's continue on. Exhibit B.
This year and have been single all my life. Recently, I fell ill and was hospitalized. During my stay, a woman of similar age to me was also in the hospital. What left a deep impression on me was her husband's meticulous and thoughtful care for her. He was incredibly attentive and considerate, which moved me greatly and made me rethink my own life. I used to think being single wasn't a big deal, but at that moment, I changed my mind. I decided I couldn't live alone anymore. I, too, want to find someone suitable to share my life with. After recovering and being discharged, I shared this decision with my family and friends, even expressing my intentions through a matchmaker. I believe that once you've made up your mind, you must approach it methodically to achieve your goal. I took some time to outline my criteria for a potential partner, ensuring that my requirements were clear and specific. However, when I shared these criteria with the matchmaker, to my surprise, she fell silent for quite a while, said nothing, and even turned and walked away.
So in Asian cultures, right, direct confrontation is considered to be like destroying somebody's face, insulting. So they won't confront you sometimes directly and call you a freaking idiot because it's considered impolite. So what they'll do is try and ignore the situation or try and avoid the conversation. So the matchmaker didn't tell her that she's lost her rockers or must have hit her head on a wall or something or fell and bumped her head. because the woman knows she's completely delusional. But again, she's been reinforced with this ideology systematically for so long, and she'll never know the truth because again, we created this. The truth doesn't make money. That's why guys like Derek Jackson is making so much money right now, because again, you got a lot of women to make money. Tell them the truth. They want to go piss them off and make them call you a misogynist. But she's been living a fantasy in a bubble her whole life for 40 years. And then the matchmaker knows the truth and it's like, but you can't, in that particular culture, they don't believe in this comfort. But listen to her mindset. Crazy. Professional woman, 40 years old. In her mind, she equates her status and achievement, because they're thinking like men, that's going to make her more attractive to men, when she really thinks like a man. And that's what's crazy about it. But she doesn't understand how undesirable she is. Let's continue on.
This reaction left me puzzled. I asked myself, my demands aren't unreasonable, so why would the matchmaker react like that? To figure out the problem, I decided to lay out my thoughts in detail and seek everyone's advice. Where exactly did I go wrong? I am 40 years old and unmarried. For various reasons, I haven't gotten married all these years, which has made me a so-called leftover woman in the eyes of others. However, my living conditions are quite good. I am currently a department manager in a large company with a stable high income. I own a car and a house, and my job is considered respectable. Honestly, my requirements for my future partner shouldn't be particularly high. Here are my general criteria for a partner. First,
Hold on. Ready, gentlemen? Y'all ready for this? Strap on your seatbelts. Let's continue.
I own a car and a house, and my job is considered respectable. Honestly, my requirements for my future partner shouldn't be particularly high. Here are my general criteria for a partner. First, in terms of age, I hope he is around my age, or I can accept up to 50 years old. However, he must be mature, steady, have a stable job, and a reliable income. Regarding height, I hope he is between 1.75 meters and 1.80 meters, which is within my acceptable range. Additionally, his personality must be gentle, not irritable, responsible, caring, and understanding of life, with no bad habits. As for appearance, I hope he is handsome to some extent, at least someone I can be proud to show off. I value face a lot, so my boyfriend must give me enough respect in front of relatives and friends and even pamper me. Second, regarding the betrothal gift, I specifically require him to provide 880,000 yuan as a bride price. This is not because I am greedy for money, but because I believe that marriage costs more for women than men. This money is a form of financial security for me and a recognition of my worth.
Hold on. Hey, time for a second. Look what's sitting behind her, laying up. Look what's laying down behind her and shit. Look at that white cat in the background. Anybody notice the cat? Even the cat's not listening to this bullshit. That cat is like, I'm stuck with this broad. Look at the cat, man. That cat is checked out, man. Let's continue on.
In other words, if a man cannot meet this requirement, it only proves that he doesn't value or recognize me enough. Besides, the betrothal gift is a traditional custom in China and a token of sincerity in marriage. If he is unwilling to spend money on a woman, such a man is not qualified to talk about marriage. Third, I hope his monthly income is at least 30,000 yuan, and all his income must be managed by me. I will allocate the 30,000 yuan into 3 parts. 10,000 yuan for my personal expenses, such as skincare products, bags, clothes, or daily necessities. Another 10,000 yuan for household expenses, and the remaining 10,000 yuan for savings, either for emergencies or for future retirement. Fourth, I am open to him being single, widowed, or divorced, but on the condition that he cannot have children living with us. If he has children, they cannot live with us, although I don't mind if he occasionally visits them.
However, if he spends money on or buys things for his children, he must inform me in advance. One more thing. I cannot accept a male child. If he has children, they must be daughters for me to consider being with him. Again, I emphasize that the children absolutely cannot live with us. Fifth, I hope he has both a car and a house. The car should be worth at least 600,000 yuan, and the house must be a property in a school district. Moreover, once we get married and register, the ownership of the house and car must include my name. This is not me being demanding but a basic guarantee in marriage. After all, once we are married, we are family, and as his wife, I am entitled to half of the assets. This is very reasonable, isn't it? These are my criteria for a partner. I personally believe that my own conditions are excellent, and my demands are really not excessive. They are practical and realistic requirements. The purpose of these criteria is based on ensuring both of us have a happy life in the future. However, the matchmaker seemed troubled after hearing this and even suggested that I lower my standards. This attitude left me very confused. Are my demands really that high? Or has the market run out of eligible men who meet these criteria? I have always believed my demands are reasonable, and I am sincere about finding a suitable partner to share my life with. So, I'd like to ask everyone for their opinion. Are my standards truly unreasonable? After all, my excellent conditions are right here, aren't they?
94的我就算大龄剩女啦，就在你们眼里我是大。
time out before we go to this crazy one. I'm sorry. Hey, brothers, we got to go. We got to go to the comment section. Let me minimize this screen. Let's go to the comment section, brothers. All right. So let's go down to the comment section. All right. Let me maximize this screen. Let me see. Make it a little bigger. Look at the first comment of the day. The second woman doesn't need to look no further. Her partner for life is just behind her. He said, look at it. Can you guys see that first comment? That's the comment of the day. You know, let's see. He even said, let me make that bigger. I'm sorry. Let me go. He said, the second woman doesn't need to look no further. Her partner for life is just behind her. That cat, they need a psychiatrist, not a matchmaker. Oh, man. He said, that second one is certifiably insane. This is Precious why they are single. This guy said, my husband must submit to me controlling all his money and me spending it mostly on myself. I am 40 years old. My demands are not unreasonable. That matchmaker went to pray for God for salvation. That's good fucking crazy. Again, let me maximize this. I mean, you can't make this shit up. You can't make this stuff up, man. Todd, we stop and say, this is the danger is social media. Everyone lives in their own multiverse. This one is on a different planet, man. I saw this video, right? And I was like, I got to share this with the brothers. I got to share this with the brothers. Hey, guys, make sure you hit the like button, man. If you want to support the channel, please do. That's up to you. But please do if you want to support the channel. But I was like, I got to share this with the fellas. Because, again, what's big nowadays? Social media. So Facebook in these Asian countries, many of them, the ones that haven't banned or certain things, whatever, you go to Thailand, you go to all these other Asian countries, Facebook is huge. Philippines, Facebook is huge. And what has happened with global reach in social media is that you can create your own world and your own reality where you're always getting all these positive affirmation. Look who's big right now. Back again is Derek Jackson, 4.1 million followers on Facebook. Nothing but positive affirmation telling women how great they are. I ain't hating on the brother. In fact, I apologize to the brother because, again, we've called him all kinds of names. But the truth is, he was right. The only way to really make it out here is to lie to them. Unfortunately, that's a terrible way to look at life. But in her mind, She didn't think she said anything really wrong. Well, let's continue on to that's exhibit B. Like she's totally out there on another planet, but let's continue on. Why not?
Life with. So, I'd like to ask everyone for their opinion. Are my standards truly unreasonable?
Yes.
After all, my excellent conditions are right here, aren't they?
94的我就算大龄剩女啦，就在你们眼里我就大龄了，我就
I was born in 1994. By today's standards, maybe I'm considered a leftover woman in other people's eyes. Whenever someone mentions leftover, I feel a bit puzzled because I'm only 30 years old. However, my mom keeps telling others that I'm a leftover woman, and my family has started introducing all kinds of people to me. As for those people, some work in state-owned enterprises, and they're all only children. But I just don't understand why the men introduced to me nowadays are often from other places, and most of them are short, usually under 1.7 meters tall. Honestly, I don't have any particularly high standards. I only hope the man is born after 1990, is at least 1.75 meters tall, and earns no less than 300,000 yuan annually. As for other conditions, having a house and a car is a must, and it would be best if he doesn't live with his parents. I think my requirements aren't too high, but I don't know why I can't find the right man. I work in a state-owned enterprise. I'm an only child, and my parents are retired from government jobs. They both have pensions. Financially, we're not extremely wealthy, but we live comfortably. Although my family isn't one of those super rich families, I believe I meet some decent criteria. So why is it still so hard to find the right person? Now, the matches my family introduces to me are either too short, have a mortgage, or earn only 5,000 to 6,000 yuan a month. I really can't accept this kind of situation. Actually, my requirements aren't that high. I just hope the man earns over 300,000 yuan annually. Or if he works in a state-owned enterprise and has some side income, that's acceptable too. I just don't understand why it's so difficult to find the right man now. Is finding a man over 1.75 meters really that hard? I also feel that based on my standards, finding a suitable person shouldn't be too difficult. After all, I was born in 1994, so finding a man born around 1990 shouldn't be impossible, right? Yet, in reality, I sometimes don't understand why it's so challenging. Although my appearance isn't particularly outstanding, I'm just an ordinary girl. I only hope the man looks normal, is emotionally mature, and has a good personality. If he's willing to spend money on me, I'll truly cherish him. Plus, my family doesn't have any major financial burdens, and our conditions are fairly decent. Even so, most of the people introduced to me are not very suitable. As for the bride price, I know it's an important matter, and it definitely needs to be prepared. My family says the bride price should be around 288,000 yuan. Other things like gold jewelry and necklaces should be purchased separately. Anyway, everything that should be there must be there. Also, before getting married, it would be best if the man could buy a new car, worth around 300,000 yuan. I can even help contribute a little money for that. I think all these conditions are quite reasonable. If the man's appearance is particularly outstanding, or if his education level is exceptionally high, or his family background is very good, I can lower my requirements a bit. But the reality is that I just can't meet such men. Sometimes, I feel quite lost.
大龄剩女果然是被挑的货呀。
Older single women really are treated like commodities, picked up and scrutinized, only to be casually tossed aside if deemed unsatisfactory.
So again, they're talking about these women treating like commodities when they're really treating the men themselves like utilities. The way they discuss everything is financially transactional, business-like. It's a business conversation, you know, and this is where we act now in the current world dynamics, and why a lot of men really don't see any benefit in this traditional being traditional to women that are not even traditional women. This is just a modern perverted form of feminism where they are expecting men to hold to traditional values. She didn't even say whether she's a virgin or not. So all this time that she's been single, she hasn't been collecting bodies in any kind of way. They're not talking about what they need to be doing for men. They're talking about what they expect from men, not what they're producing for men or what value they're adding to men's lives. And this is why I say that marriage itself is doomed. It's doomed in the West and it's doomed in many countries around the world. We see this reduction in childbirth. We see this, these men are just checking out. China is worse because the men are just like, hell no, I'd rather live in my little 1-bedroom shack in the village and not even take part in this situation. So it's a global situation that we see where we have unreasonable expectation and a global dating, relationship, and sexual marketplace. Social media open up the portals for women. A lot of businesses in the commercial industry really trying to sell products, creating this delusion of what is expected from men. So they're feeding these marketing ploys and these delusional requirements and expectation. Your man's he's not a man if he doesn't do this for you. He's not a man if he doesn't do that for you, right? And I showed you the Derek Jackson thing right now, where you have now the biggest money maker is really, really, really telling women lies. I mean, if you try to tell a woman the truth now, you're going to be labeled a complete man-hating, whatever you're going to be called, and you're going to be like shamed like a mug. So I thought about this stream, and I thought about, I put it in my computer, let me upload this thing. I thought about this topic because we still have people who believe that they can shame men, today's men, into traditional roles and traditional marriages and relationships, trying to shame men into, when we see the meat grinder, we see the bodies, we see dudes getting devoured, cannibalized, eaten, grinded up into shreds. We know the statistics, we've seen the facts globally. And you're expecting men to sign up for these deals. And we're still talking about, we're trying to shame them, call them incels, lames, bums. Well, even the 10% of men or the 15% of men that are having sex with the majority of the women, even they're not marrying these women. So the men that they say they don't want, they ain't marrying them and not being an option because they've gotten simp shamed. The men at the top of the food chain ain't marrying them because they've got a variety of options and there's no way they're going to invoke the state into their life. So what you end up with is a situation where the market itself is trying to redirect the conversation. And even with guys like Scott Galloway, what they're talking about now is how men don't measure up, which is a reverse shaming tactic. They're talking about how men don't measure up. That's the conversation now. That's the reverse psychology now. If we tell them they're a bunch of lames and underperformers, and they need to get back out here and get on this off the sideline and come after these women and approach these women and try and get numbers and whatever else. Imagine if somebody approached that delusional woman and he is not what that woman wants. What her mind and what the social programming has told her, what she deserves in terms of height, physical stature, look. And you approach that woman and you're not what she wants. She almost feels disrespected because in her mind, she has a mindset and a mentality of what she deserves as a woman. And that's what with a lot of these guys, especially these guys, these game guys, which when you watch them at work, you see how so many of them take L's all the time. Because obviously the goal is to sell that course. They want to sell that course. But if you're not what that woman wants, in her mind, the criteria that she wants, she's almost insulted now if a guy was to approach her. If he was to approach her. So smart men understand the game. They understand the game. You know, some dudes just check out. Some dudes just buy what they want. Some dudes say, forget this and travel, work on their self-development, become a better version of themselves, and leave that shit alone. Even the dude who's getting mauled the box, he like, man, look, hey. We good for a day, but not for the long time. They say short time, not long time. So they're not trying to sign this deal up. And you see him. So they try to make it about the money. But Tyrese has money. Kevin Costner has money. What's the judge's name? He has money. All these, Johnny Depp has money. Will Smith has money. All these men with money getting cooked. Shit, you seen Ben Affleck. What's the recent one right now? All these men with money. So the issue is not money. It ain't money. It's a changing dynamics with relationships. It's a changing dynamic, period. And men that are smart adapt to the realities of life. They will maybe hang out with some women, enjoy pleasures with some women, spend time with some women. And don't these religious people come in here talking to me. The religious people can't say nothing to me because the church is full of debauchery. You got the LGBT all in there doing whatever they want. Single moms everywhere on the pew. The pastor is pimps in the pulpit trying to get that money, and he's stroking the single ladies up in there. So the church can't say that to me. Don't talk to me about the Bible, because right now we have you quote all the scriptures you want. That ain't gonna change reality. Judge Mathis, that's the brother. Judge Mathis. Thanks, Vegas Dave. Judge Mathis. That's the brother. Him out there now begging. He got money. He back home begging right now. Baby, please don't leave me. Don't take all my money. We've been married for 39 years. You can't do this to me. He back home begging. This is a so-called high-value man. Was Tyrese a high-value man? Kevin Costner a high-value man? Emmett Smith a high-value man? Deion Sanders a high-value man? Shaq a high-value man? All these so-called high-value men getting smoked. So high-value, low-value, medium value, it doesn't matter. It's all going into the meat grinder. It's all going into the meat grinder. Church, it don't matter. Deeply religion, don't matter. Spiritual, it don't matter. The problem is that we have this, hey, salute to you. What's going on, man? Salute to you. We have these traditional mindsets that we're trying to put in place for an institution that doesn't fit well in the modern world without some changes. Women are not the same. Women are not the same. So we take this traditional institution of marriage, where we have all of the expectations that are in place for men that's enforced by the state, and they're getting a modern woman. And that's why you see now, because of inflation in the economy, they want to talk about traditionalism, man being the provider. The word provider is always thrown out there. It's kind of a slick way, unlike the Chinese women who are just straight out and blunt. They just tell you, they're just like, shit, transactional. This is what I want. At least they're honest. These women try to put it in a reverse shaming mechanism, which is, you're not a provider. How big a provider? I thought you was strong and independent. I thought you didn't want to be under the old patriarchal system. What happened to patriarchy? What happened to equality? So you want me to be a relationship? You want my wallet to be in 1950, but you want the marriage and relationship to be in 2025. So you want an egalitarian relationship when it comes to following a man's leadership and playing traditional roles and doing traditional tasks that women did in the past. But when it comes to you submitting and obeying and falling under my leadership, you're like, hell no, I ain't doing that. So if I ask you to iron a shirt for me or cook some food for me or do something for me, now there's a problem. And what are you getting in terms of a woman? Of a modern day woman, you're ending up with what we talk about it all the time. This is what you're getting. This is what you're getting. So imagine that deal. Somebody offered that to you as a business deal, right? You were supposed to get everybody's chewed bubble gum. You don't even get to get a fresh pack of bubble gum. You get everybody's chewed bubble gum. And then you're supposed to be better. You're supposed to be a better man for this, right? You can't make this shit up. So getting back into social media delusion, we have to get back into what women are listening to, right? That's why I don't even talk to women when I leave this channel, right? I won't even mention this shit when I leave this channel, all right? Right? We know what women are listening to, right? We know what women are listening to. All day long, they're listening to this. 4.2 million subscribers, right? Now, I told you before, I don't blame this brother for making that money. So all day long, positive affirmations. Forget about what he did to his wife and his family in the past. That don't even matter no more. Because as long as you're pandering and selling the dream, as long as you're selling the dream, you can be the biggest scumbag liar on the planet. It don't matter. You just have to agree with women's feelings and tell them how wonderful they are. That's all you have to do. So the idea that men have expectations and men have choices is crazy. It's like foreign to them. Because now you're hitting them with, they're like, oh my God, what are you saying? What's wrong with you? You hate women. Because they're listening to this shit all day long. Look at this. This is what they listen to all day long. All day long. They listen, look at this guy. What? Look, listen to this shit.
A loyal woman's love will have you confused. Like, if you do one or two things now, if first off, you take her kindness for weakness.
Look at it.
Or two, if you mistake her love for an inability to leave you, it'll have you bamboozled. It'll have you thinking that she's so whipped, no matter what you do, she ain't going nowhere. She ain't going nowhere. You're the only man that even exists in her world. And if she feels like her cup is starting to run empty because you're not pouring effectively, she would take her love and she will redirect it.
So this dude you think he don't give a rat's ass whether women are successful or not, right? They're listening to this shit all day long. All day long, they listen to this shit. You think you're going to say something to that woman who listens to this type of guy all day long, and your opinion is going to go against what he says? Or you have a conversation with your woman or a woman, and then she goes back to this guy's opinion, and he has 4.2 million subscribers, and you working at Fed Express, and you say, well, excuse me, buddy. Derek Jackson said, I'm not talking about the women. So they're listening to this, right? All day long, they listen to this shit, right? Go ahead, Derek. Hit that game.
Strictly towards herself, for herself. And now that same love that had you feeling like you was the only man in the world will have you feeling like you don't even exist in hers, because you don't. And you can't wait for her to start complaining and nagging, because some women are just beyond the stage of warning men. They'll express their needs. They'll communicate their...
The same freaking playbook. The same playbook. He went back to the same playbook. He waited his time, and he went back to the same playbook. That shit works. In 2025, that's how you make money on social media. You sell the women a bunch of bullshit. He don't believe that shit. And how do you know he don't believe it? Look at the example of his life. Right? So smart men understand the situation. And there's so many distractions in relationships. Because now that man is not in a relationship with just that woman. She's in a relationship with that woman, her friends, her single aunties and moms, the court of public opinion, the sisterhood, panda bears and simps on the internet, telling her what she deserves and telling her what a lousy bastard you are. All day, every day, there's voices in her ear telling her how much better she is than you, reaffirming every feeling that she has, comparison being the thief of joy, looking at other people on social media. Hey, they just got a new car, a new house. They went on a nice vacation to this location. Oh man, the man I have next to me, he's a bum. He's not even performing at that level. So this is what you're dealing with all day long. And it doesn't stop there, right? It doesn't stop there. I mean, all day long. Go down. Quotes, statements, supporting. Look, again, another one. Lies.
That you neglected her, leaving her hanging, not answering the phone for hours, sometimes even days, and you're going to teach her a lesson. Let me tell you something. Your silence, your emotional, maybe even physical neglect, it's not teaching her a lesson. It's teaching her a lifestyle. You think that she's learning by missing you? No, she's learning to replace you. That's not her punishment that you decided you're going to withdraw from her. That's her practice run for what she's about to make permanent. You thinking you're going to snatch her up from up on her. You think that you done effectively love bombed her
all day long. This is what they listen to. All day long. All day long. And this is what men are up against out here. And this is what the strain is on marriages. They certainly ain't listening to their husbands. They listen to this shit all day long. Because you know what I see on my Facebook a lot, many times? The married women are reposting Derek Jackson clips. The married women are reposting Derek Jackson clips. They certainly ain't listening to their husbands. They don't even care about his past. If you ask them about his past, they'll probably hit you with a scripture. You know, especially black people, they like the scripture silence you. There's, First Timothy chapter 4, verses 7 says this. They hit you with one of those forgiveness scripts out the Bible and try and silence you with the Bible and shit. You're like, okay. Maybe we should forgive Derek Jackson. Now, he didn't violate me, he violated his wife. But black people will hit you one of those scriptures. That's why as soon as somebody starts talking and quoting out the Bible, I just say, yeah, you know what? You have a nice day, because they don't want to have that intellectual conversation. So they use the Bible to kind of escape out of it, because what are you going to say? So they try to use the Bible to silence you when they're heathen themselves. They're damn heathen. They just weaponize the Bible because they don't want to have the intellectual conversation. So why is all these married women posting Derek Jackson clips? Because in their own selfishness, that marriage and that relationship is all about them. And it's a projection of how they feel they should be treated and what they feel they deserve. They never post clips about how well they treat their husbands, how they spoil their husbands. Could you imagine them post a clip of them cooking some food for their husband or rubbing his feet? Oh my God, the sisterhood would go outrageous. The women would go like, "Oh, you abused woman, you mistreated human being. You're cooking your husband food in 2025?" So this is what they post, the type of clips they post. And it's crazy. So we're at this point now where all we're seeing is these positive affirmations for women. All they care about, or all they talk about. I mean, you talk about the typical gynocentric environment. I mean, same script, left off where he started, doing the same goddamn thing, getting paid. They don't care whether he's lying or not. It just feels good to hear, oh my God, there's a sexy chocolate man that's on our side. He gets it. We're victims. We've been mistreated. And they're asking men to get into these types of situations and relationships with delusional creatures, hook on the dopamine rush that they get from social media, who live their lives with their phones in their hands and are constantly fishing and looking for likes and approval. And I say, attention has become the most dangerous drug in the world. And I've traveled. I spent 4 months in northern Thailand, in Laos area, as a snowbird, enjoying the warm weather, occasionally going down to the beaches. And even then, over there, every time in the gym, every second of the day, they got that phone in their face. Every minute of the day. Overseas, don't matter. They live on social media. I just came from Asia a couple of weeks ago. They live on Facebook and social media, making posts all day long. Every seat at the gym, they cracking a video. So the idea or the illusion of options, and we talked about that a long time ago. And that's why you see these late divorces. You see people like Tia Mowry graduating from marriage, because in their mind, they see this man tree. Their friends have told them about all the excitement they're having out here, single women, Girl, you get rid of that loser husband. You get out here and, you know, old Roscoe over there working at UPS. He ain't cutting it no more because one of her single girlfriends, has told her about this single life and how she's going to Jamaica and how she's whatever. She ain't gonna tell her the truth that she's popping antidepressants from getting ran through out here, getting vigorously and viciously pounded out here. They're not going to tell them that. They're not going to tell them, look, shit, I had to go see the psychiatrist last week. And I had to go to the STD clinic too. They're not telling their friends that shit. Because you know why? They want misery likes company. They're going to lower those women out of good relationships or relationships with men to come out here and join them getting completely obliterated. They're not going to tell them they're taking antidepressants. They're not going to tell them that. You know, they're not going to tell them that. And why would they? You know, why would they tell them that? You know, women are not that benevolent to tell you. You see, even the old feminists, they don't tell the younger women, look, I effed up. I thought men and women were the same. I thought men and women were the same. I end up wasting my years. They're not going to tell the younger women that. Why? Just like this guy right here. I mean, he's good. He's good. He's good at bullshit. You know, but we know in this country systematically that there have been so many things done with manhood, with masculinity over the years. And it was funny because I saw this one video because, you know, obviously we have the game coaches and all these guys in men's content. You know, they like to jockey with each other for who is the, you know, who has the best game and all this other goddamn nonsense. And we've already established that the reason why you need all this game out here is really just to spin plates with dysfunctional women and get women to drop their panties that are dysfunctional, maybe have some daddy issues or some problems, and you're trying to just quick manipulate them out of some box. That's really the purpose of game. And that's really what it's all about for them, you know. And most of them, like I said, don't show any real receipts in life. Some of these dudes been married for the last 20 years selling game. They have no idea what they're talking about in the current world. Or they're trying to sell you some course. Not on anything that's going to really benefit you for the long term. They have you out there all juiced up, you know, walking up to women and shit, getting obliterated because you offended them by approaching them. Because you ain't nothing that they want. If you ain't nothing that they want, they feel like it's an insult because you just lowered their value. By them even talking to them, it lowers their value. Because in their mind, how would you think such a thing? And that's what these game coaches are not telling these guys. Even the one guy, the fit and fearless guy, he gets curbed all the time. Because to the women, he looks like a short metrosexual, a short metrosexual. Nobody told him that he looks like a short metrosexual. In his mind, he thinks, well, really, he can get some box office status and money. But to these women out here, you know, they're like, well, yeah, he's shorter than my 6'2" requirement. Or I want a guy that's 6'3" or 6'5". And no matter how much muscle t-shirts he put on, he ain't 6'5". If her mindset is 6'5", and he's 5'7", no matter how much weights he lift and how fit he get, until she gets old and over the hill, you DOA, showing up talking to her. Because in her mind, her archetype of that man is 6'5". And a lot of women a lot of dudes don't realize that. In their mind, if you're not that exact archetype, you're not her sexual select preference, all the game in the world ain't gonna save you. Maybe they'll make a move on some money shit or some lifestyle stuff. Something just got to compensate for you not being her archetype. But it certainly ain't gonna be your game or your mouthpiece. You can forget about that shit. You can forget. You better present something that's economically or beneficial to that woman, or something beneficial to that woman that she is willing to overlook, whatever shortfalls she sees in her mind based upon the reality that she sees in her mind. But anyhow, I just want to talk about that real quick because I think it's crazy that in 2025 we're still talking about marriage. What I see now is the shame campaign. They're calling guys a bunch of incels and telling guys to not measure up and whatever else. And it's crazy. I saw a video earlier. I saw a video earlier, which was interesting. I was watching the brother over there at Legion of Men. And it was an interesting video by Jordan Peterson. It was talking about what's happening with the boys. It was fascinating because he has an interesting opinion of it. And I always talk about many of the things you see right now with the young men. It's been systematic. It's been happening with the culture. It's been systematically done to really attack and oppress manhood and masculinity. Now we're seeing the side effects of that now. Now the men are like, hell no, this ain't going to work. But it's systematic. So let's continue on. I want to share this clip. Salute to Legion of Men because he actually did a reaction to it. Time to be looking for the original clip. Let me just let it play. I want you guys to let me know what you think. So again, Jordan Peterson, let's hear what he says.
Welcome back, Tribe. I have an episode here where Jordan Peterson gets interviewed by Piers Morgan, and they talk about the adolescence show and why men are more isolated than ever. Let's see what they say. I haven't seen this yet.
Slightly to this Netflix drama phenomenon, adolescence, which is really in your wheelhouse, I think, Jordan, because it follows a 13-year-old boy who's suspected of killing a young girl, and he's been adversely influenced, affected by what he's seen online, some pretty extreme stuff, a lot of misogyny. He's portrayed as a young incel and so on. There's now a move to have this series shown in schools. It's been a huge hit in the UK and America and everywhere else. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but you've probably seen the coverage of it. What do you make of the fact, A, that it's been so successful, and B, the premise behind it, that we're basically having an epidemic at the moment of young boys in particular whose brains are getting scrambled by pretty vile stuff online?
Well, look, there is a crisis of youth, both among young men and young women. And with young men, it's a consequence of the fact that they've been programmatically demoralized for 60 years, I would say.
Yes.
Their play preferences in schools are not favored because boys tend to be more active, as they're taught that competition is wrong by utter fools who don't understand that peaceful competition in game-like settings is actually an advanced form of cooperation that socializes aggression. They've been taught that their ambition is nothing but a manifestation of the oppressive patriarchy. They've been taught that all of their attraction towards women is to be regarded with extreme skepticism because fundamentally they're nothing but, would-be rapists. And, that all has an effect. And I've seen that, and it's been painful to see. I've been struck to the core over the last 6 years as my influence has grown to see just exactly the scope of demoralization among young people. I'll talk about men first, all around the world. And also, Piers, hurt as well by the observation that many of these young men can be set right with not much more than some truly encouraging words. And, that exaggerates the pain because the problem is deep and the solution isn't that complex or difficult. And you don't need that much of it. And so, I warned back in 2016 about this assault on masculinity. I said, you people, you keep pushing, you're going to find out you think strong men are a problem. You wait till you produce weak men who are resentful and bitter because of their failure, and you're going to see real trouble. And you're going to see people turn, well, and this is happening to some degree because one of the most popular influencers in the world among young men is Andrew Tate. And I wouldn't hold out much hope for the West if Andrew Tate is the direction that young men go in, because he's a bad actor right to the core. But the thing about someone like him is that if you're weak and dependent and demoralized by your culture, let's say, and you've fallen into that isolated trap, someone blustery and successful on the surface and aggressive, and dominating in the power mad way that Andrew Tate is going to look pretty damn attractive compared to your infantile dependency. And the other thing about that, Pierce, is there's some truth in it, because it's actually better to be a bit of a monster than a complete bloody lamb and, a passive lamb.
Mhm.
And this is why there's, I'll give you an example. So in The Lord of the Rings, for example, when the Hobbit, Bilbo, decides that he's going to stop being, hyper protected, the first thing he has to do is join this band of miscreants and become a bit of a thief. There's a bit of a darkness that has to be incorporated into men before they can mature, before they can stop being children. And there's different pathways that can take, and it can take that blustery, quasi-psychopathic route that characterizes people like Andrew Tate, and the hyper masculinity that goes along with that, or it can be truly civilized and socialized so that men can become civilized and staunch competitors who are moving forward implacably in the world. That's much more complicated to manage, right? Because that's the true path of civilization, the self-sacrificial path of true civilization, an alternative to mere utilization, let's say, of power or degeneration into hedonism. But we've decided in our culture that we're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and that everything about the patriarchy is pathological. And the
Mhm.
consequence of that is that we're demoralizing young men. Now, that also turns out to be very bad for young women, because they might even be in worse shape than young men. And so you get a show like Adolescence, and it does target in some way one element of the problem, although it's ill-formed in its psychological analysis, and there are much greater threats, let's say, to the integrity of British culture, as Kemi Badenoch pointed out this week, than what violent incel culture, of which really, Pierce, there's pretty much none. Like, I'm not saying that isn't a lurking psychological danger, and I think the Andrew Tate phenomenon points to that. But you guys in the UK, and maybe everyone in the West more broadly, we have more serious things to consider than, conspiratorial incels. I mean, even let's take the Muslim extremist front, shall we? I mean, even countries like the UAE
Well,
and Saudi
we're going to a
Arabia.
different thing. But again, interesting insight on some of the young men from Jordan Peterson. And one thing that he pointed and he highlighted is how society has evolved in time, and why I think it's necessary that men need to adapt to the realities of life today. And the problem is they're trying to keep men in this traditional mindset, and it's not working, because the influence by that are there for women on social media, there's some type of equal and opposite influence with the men on social media. And now channels like this, channels like other channels that really advocate for men's best interests, not in an exploitative way, trying to rustle some amount of money out of your pocket with the pickup artists and these game coaches, trying to rob you of your hard-earned money, selling you this fantasy and this illusion. Many of these guys with unverifiable background, you don't know who the hell they are. You don't know whether they're successful or not, or whether they've picked up a couple of hookers and rented them some suits and an expensive car and pretending to be financially successful, talking to you about game and game and game. They're basically a bunch of scammers selling you lies, trying to get you to get their monthly subscription. I can tell you right now, especially with what I know about women, the many women that I've talked to, the many women that I'm around, if you don't meet that archetype, you're DOA. And it ain't until they're old and ran through that they will even consider a certain guy and a serious relationship. Or if they're not trying to capitalize on some transactional sex, or they're selling pay for play or some other nonsense, they're not trying to consider a certain type of guy until they're like the wall has turned into, like, they don't even hit the wall, they hit a mountain. Until they hit a mountain. So you can game up all day long. It ain't gonna help you. Unless you want to get the short end of the stick and be that dude, that Boyce Watkins type dude. I know ain't nobody signing up for that bullshit. You can forget it. That ain't happening. You're better off being Uncle Earl. You're better off as Uncle Earl. We know who Uncle Earl is, than to be that dude. Because we see what happens in these marriages and these relationships where that dude is not that woman's first choice. If you ain't her first choice or her first options, what are you? You're like the punching bag. Once that woman has secured some type of relationship with you, you're pretty much toast. Toast. So with that being said, man, I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here, man. But this is an interesting topic. But what I see nowadays more so is a conversation of shame. But anyhow, peace and blessings to you, brothers. I'm out of here. I just want to share that first video with you guys and see what you think. But I'm out, man. Y'all take it easy.